Beautiful. Welcome back to the TYF DC. I always stumble over it.
I know.
The
Way to
TYF,
choose a good title.
the TYF DC Debrief, where we talk about our weekly coverage of all of your favorite DC superhero tales in the live-action multiverse that don't suck, like Batman v Superman. Including in their weekly viewable order, Supergirl and The Flash, as reviewed by my co-host Allison Johnson, and then Arrow and Legends of Tomorrow, reviewed by yours truly. So this week we are going to talk about. I got double feedback on myself. That was weird. So yeah, this this week is a kind of a big deal because Supergirl was treated to her first crossover feature in Grant Gustin's Barry Allen.
And it was adorable.
Yeah, basically it was everything that Batman versus Superman should have been. We should stop talking about that movie.
Yeah, I'm done, actually. I posted my last piece. I'm not going to talk about it.
Just let it die.
Uh-huh.
Just in a ditch quietly and slowly. But why don't you give a quick lowdown on what the events were in the episode that was actually entitled World's Finest, which is actually kind of a riff on the original animated Batman, Superman, and animated and comic versions of the Bat Soups crossover bit, but with different characters this time around.
Essentially, Barry Allen, aka The Flash, finds himself in Supergirl's world, and in order to get back home, he helps Kara and friends track down the two antagonists of the week, the Silver Banshee and Livewire, who are targeting both Cat Grant and Supergirl's alter ego, or vice versa, Kara. So, yeah, I mean, it's just it's a pretty simple premise overall. The real joy of watching it was seeing Barry Allen and Kara Danvers interact together. But that's kind of the gist of the overall plot, and we're kind of still waiting on the Flash side of things to see just when and where he manages to travel to her Earth. But it was hinted at in the last episode. But yeah, no, I mean, overall for the episode, I liked it. I didn't necessarily like the villains at all or the overall storyline. It was one of the weaker ones in recent weeks. But again, Melissa Benoist and Grant Gustin's charm was almost obnoxious.
It's fun to put characters the way that those two portray their characters into a playground together for the first time, and actually kind of seeing how their rapport kind of bounces off of one another. Yeah, the villains were kind of just like, what it almost reminded me of was one of the old kinds of Smallville episodes where they would throw in a cameo, which I think there actually was one. I don't know if it was supposed to be Barry Allen or Wally West, but it felt like one of those where it had like, there's two heroes, so now we gotta have two villains, like one of that kind of dynamic. But I don't mind Livewire as just a random pop in, pop out villain. I didn't mind her in that episode they aired back in November or so.
Yeah.
But the Silver Banshee, I don't get it, and it just stuck out like a sore thumb. It just stuck out like a sore thumb to me. And actually, what I was wondering was when you said, where is it that Barry ends up jumping somehow into that multiverse? Do you mean like in this week's episode when he purposefully traveled back in time?
Yeah.
Because he was being chased by the space ghost from coast to coast, as I was calling.
Yeah, but it still hasn't happened yet in his timeline for like what's played out in the Flash. Mm-hmm. But they hint at how he could have gotten there with them showing the tachyon or whatever. The
tachyon particles, yeah.
Yeah, that's hinted at with Harrison Wells of the past, or Eobard Thawne's Harrison Wells. So yeah, it hasn't explicitly happened, but we now have gotten hints on how it's going to happen. But I don't think it's ever going to be like a strict like storyline for the Flash universe. It's more like going to explain how it happened.
I think it's cool though that it's already been thrown out there that Barry can toy around with these different multiverses in a way. So I think that's one of many cool possibilities that can be explored there. In regards to me jumping into that, like the first episode in a long time watching Supergirl, I felt like I didn't miss all that much in regards to the character growth. It seemed like, because where I left it off, it seemed like that Lois's cousin or whatever that used to be dating Lucy Lane, that relationship obviously was going to come to a close at some point, and there's all this like lovey-dovey flip-flopping first season romance kind of stuff. So
I mean, that was actually developed rather well because it really did take its time, and it never painted either Lucy or Kara out to be the bad one in anything.
Which is good. That's very important in this
series. No, I like, again, my whole thing with Supergirl is I love the characters, I love the character relationships. I don't love the storylines. I think she deserves better ones, especially since, as we saw this week, she's kind of perfect as a superhero.
Well, and then that's the problem, that once the character itself has been established in certain aspects, that's the trouble that people run into with Superman in a way. You know, when you have this character that can overcome almost anything if they try enough, all she has to do is learn how to use her powers, and once she has, she's unstoppable, which is great. That's good for her and it's inspiring, but what aspects of that are going to make for good TV?
Yeah, and it's not even that. It's like the way they split the time between storylines and trying to make it more like procedural light is where they really run into issues over the course of the season.
Yeah, as you were saying, it's that kind of first season growing pains that, you know, where they try to establish their format in a way. Like The Flash was like that for a little while last year too. So
yeah.
But as you were saying, like the overall plot of Eobard Thawne being disguised as Harrison Wells is so much more compelling than Clark Kent's Krypton mom. That's who it is, right? The main villain in Secret. It's like her aunt.
No, not anymore.
Her aunt, or no, not anymore. See, I don't even.
No, because again, it's not even that. It's like the two shows aren't even like that comparable, except for how the leads play their characters and like the similar charm they both possess. But, you know, but I also thought The Flash didn't have the same growing pains as Supergirl. I think Supergirl season 1 is more of an Arrow like situation where they have interesting concepts and they haven't learned how to like merge them yet, whereas The Flash pretty efficiently and quickly came out of the gate a confident series. Like, I never thought they had to try to figure out who they were. Like, I feel like they really knew from the get-go exactly what kind of show they were going to be. They were going to embrace the comic book lore, and like they're just kind of gonna have more fun with everything, whereas Supergirl hasn't really decided what genre they hover closer to, which is fine. And if we get a season 2, we'll get the time to explore it a little bit more.
Yeah, I definitely see that comparison to Arrow's first season on the complete opposite end of the spectrum in terms of tone. So I totally get that. You want to talk about what kind of terrible things that Barry was trying to do this week?
I know. I hate that. I mean, I really liked the episode.
No, yeah.
Firstly, before I dig into it a bit, I really enjoyed it, I thought. But as I said, kind of like to talk about what I wrote earlier this week in my review, it did feel like the writers were like, how do we get this current Flash back in a room with past Eobard Wells Reverse Flash, with them having everything open in the air and they can just like have it out? You know, like I felt like the whole episode was built around that one standoff between the two when Harrison Wells, Eobard Thawne,
has him
handcuffs Barry. Wheelchair. So, but I don't like shows cutting corners with characterization, and I've seen it a lot this year in general, just like wherever I seem to be looking in the shows I like. But it's like they diminish certain personality traits in order to move the story forward. Like Barry Allen is supposed to be a very, very bright human being beyond just being a superhero. He's supposed to be really smart. So the idea that he would like so lazily knock his past self out not make sure he was taken care of for the next couple hours until he left. That he would let everybody know that he was from the future and believe that the Reverse Flash would do nothing about it. And then that we're supposed to believe that the Reverse Flash believes him, that he gets away to home. You know? So it's like, it's a lot of cutting corners in terms of what we're supposed to believe these characters would or wouldn't do. But considering it seems like we've already seen all the ramifications of what's going to happen from him tampering with the timeline, being just that Hartley's a good guy now, that's fine. And I kind of like that little twist, but you know.
Yeah, I was expecting it to have some kind of grander, let's say consequences, I suppose, rather than casualties, because I always assume the worst when something like that is going to happen. I'm like, oh no, who's going to die when he tries to go back in time and fix this shit? I thought he was going to try and somehow save Eddie, but we kind of already explored that when he got attached to Earth 2 versions of Iris and Joe. So it's kind of like, yeah, this season we've explored Barry going into alternate places and times to the degree where it's kind of like when you reach this point, yeah, they just want to get to the meat of him confronting with Eobard Thawne. So.
Yeah. No, yeah. So again, I thought that one confrontation kind of saved the episode in terms of me caring about the pitfalls, because I thought that scene was so well done. And like just to see it of Barry Allen, who is totally not in fear or like threatened by what the Reverse Flash could do to him, especially now that he's seen like an even greater foe in Zoom.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting that whole situation, isn't it? Yeah, it's the first time he's encountered Reverse Flash in that way.
Like he doesn't have anything like held over him anymore, and to see that relationship again, I thought Tom Cavanaugh and Grant Gustin were tremendous in that little standoff. I thought they were really good, and you could see kind of how this Barry, opposed to how he put it, their Barry, has changed and grown over the season.
The one thing that was getting me was that conversation you were talking about with Reverse Flash, and Thawne kind of comes to this conclusion like, oh shit, this means if you're from the future and you're alive, and that means I fail, because apparently his plan only goes for the length of a single 10 months that the first season was airing.
Yeah. Well, no, it would be if he's back and he knows he's the Reverse Flash.
Yeah. I get that, but
when
he's coming to the conclusion, like when Barry basically lies to him and says, "Oh yeah, we help you return home totally." I'm like, is that gonna affect anything in the future at all?
No. I think they were expecting us not to care about like the timey-wimey bullshit of it all. But
I do care about the timey-wimey bullshit.
I know. It bothered me a little bit too, but I forgave it.
But we look at these things from a different angle than a general audience will tune in for whatever binging on Hulu, etc.
No, I don't think so. I think the time travel stuff is the stuff that trips up general audiences the most, especially when you start to think about it too hard and like everything that it could potentially mess up. But because I don't know if there's like many different ways to look at a superhero property, but I know what you mean.
Yeah. There really wasn't all that much going on in the rest of the episode, though, was there?
No, except that I like that we finally saw Iris still grieving Eddie's death. Like, I feel like everything that's been spoken about in regards to Eddie and Iris hasn't been said by her. Like, I feel like she never got to address it. So the fact that they did address it this week, and that like she like felt like she can finally move on, even if that doesn't letting go of him, but like she can live with that grief and like with her love for him and just kind of move forward in her life. I thought that was really interesting and really rewarding to finally see the character get that moment.
Yeah, it was definitely the first time since the second season premiere, and even around that time when Eddie was brought up, it was very much in passing to get the plot moving along. So yeah, that was really kind of the proper send off for him, both for the audience and for her. Yeah, I mean the way that Barry went about it in the alternate timeline was very awkward, but had a decent payoff towards the end. But yeah, I mean, other than that, there's like a bit. All the other characters kind of play very tiny second fiddles to Barry and Thawne in this episode. There's a small bit with Wally. Cisco cracks a joke about different berries. Oh, geez. Yeah. That's it. It just opens with Barry being very angsty and continues on with that until he fulfills his goal. You know what? It was very much the Flash doing a Back to the Future 2 kind of homage episode in a way.
So
yeah, yeah, that's it with the Flash for this week, huh?
About this week's, which I already admitted that, like, since Thursday on, I've been grappling with really bad allergies because in Boston, if you don't know, it was 60 degrees on Thursday, and now there's snow on my window. So I have been lazy, and I did not see Arrow. So I will maybe be a little snarky from my side of the computer, but Evan, you'll probably have to take most of this one.
Well, it's funny you say that about your allergies because you know what the plot of this week's episode was, right?
I know the bee girl. Okay, listen. Here's another reason why I didn't care for this episode, even though I know it's kind of funny and like whatever. But God, I hated the bee episode last year, The Flash. It was my least favorite episode they ever did.
Now, hear me out.
No.
I felt and thought the exact same thing when this episode of Arrow started up. Like within the first 5 minutes, I'm like, oh no, we're gonna be going fucking here. So it opens with Felicity and the Palmer Tech building being surrounded by the robot bees. This girl comes in, she's doing stupid Joker Snapchats or whatever, trying to scare Felicity, and Thea's in there, and Felicity's mom is in there, right? And the board members are doing this terrible overacting where they're getting gutted out by robot bees. And I'm like, this is going to be the stupidest episode ever. Oliver's cracking jokes about Harry Potter. What the hell is going on? And then the rest of the episode starts. And most of the episode revolves around the fact that it's the first time that Felicity is really doing anything where she's completely separating herself from Oliver and Team Arrow. It just so happens that Thea happens to be in the room with her. And as the plot moves itself along for a little while, they're kind of like, they're doing their running, they're doing their hiding, they're doing their screaming. But then Felicity really gets her shit going on, and she's being resourceful and thoughtful. And while they're trying to, kick some ass and take some names, she goes and rescues all the board members from Palmer Tech because she's feeling responsible for them. And yeah, it was probably the first time like she's been a real character in this episode. From the other aspect of from the other side of the coin, we're down in the bunker and we got Holt, who is caught wind of the bees, and he's like, all right, I kind of have a vague idea of the fact that somebody that Felicity knows might be the Green Arrow, and it's somewhere in this building. And he just kind of stumbles into the bunker, okay? And he fucking passes out because, like you, he had allergies. And he basically plays Felicity for Team Arrow for the week, but he's kind of like an alternate Star City version of me, where he's trying to be serious, but he can't help himself making random references and jokes, and that gets on Oliver's nerves. So it's a very interesting relationship that those two bud after a little while. But he proves himself to be pretty useful. Basically, my point being is that Felicity had her situation with the goddamn bee lady, and then you have Holt thrown into Team Arrow, and it was the campiest episode that Arrow's achieved so far. I felt like that since season 4 of Arrow has started, they wanted to try to take some notes from The Flash, where they wanted to make it a little bit lighter, a little bit campier in a way. And this is probably the most that the directors and the writers teams have achieved on any episode of the show that has had no involvement with Flash characters from the beginning. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. And I mean, I'm all for Arrow taking a bit of a lighter touch. They don't have to, be turning out each week, but I think them not taking themselves as seriously, never hurts the show. Always helps Stephen Amell's performance because he's almost a different actor when he gets to play Happy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I'll be interested. I'll tune into it because I am interested to see the new dynamic between the team, and I have a few about to go down in the next episode that's going to make me mighty, mighty angry. Okay. So I might as well see the Happy thing.
Is that supposed to be the next episode that we're talking about?
Uh-huh.
Okay, because what I was about to say to you was he and Oliver and Laurel have some high-quality moments in this episode that we haven't seen in a very long time, to the degree where when I was watching this episode, I remembered, oh my God, that's right. Oliver and Laurel were in a relationship together. There were actually 2 standout scenes where the 2 of them, in what little downtime they had, really got into what his emotional state was. And I actually had the opportunity to sit there and be like, yeah, I like Laurel as a character for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, because they actually try. And I feel like they're only trying now.
Because they're going to kill her.
Curtain is about to fall. Yeah. Yep, that's my guess. And I am really still annoyed at the idea of them killing Black Canary for no reason. But whatever.
Next week they're teasing about what's going on with Diggle's brother, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's not gonna. I still don't think he's gonna be the one to die.
Quinn, is Diggle gonna die?
I have my headphones on.
Oh damn it! He can't hear me.
He wouldn't know. But no, and he wouldn't know. He doesn't pay attention like I do, and I've seen the set photos. And why would Barry show up for Diggle's brother's funeral if they've never met?
Diggle's funeral.
Diggle's not gonna die. Okay, they would not kill him. They would kill Laurel because Laurel's more expendable, technically.
There's no reason she should be more expendable. She's the Black fucking Canary.
I know, but the showrunners have never treated her like she's an essential part of the team. They've written her one shitty storyline after another before completely sidelining her for an entire season. So yeah, no. She is technically, by the show standards and how they've handled it before, absolutely the most expendable one. Especially now that Sarah's alive. Trust me, it's gonna happen.
If they had put all the focus that they had on Felicity into Laurel, then nobody would have cared about Felicity.
Well, no, my problem is why can't they care about more than one female character at a time? They could have put if they were a really talented show, and I like the show a lot, and I think it does a lot of things well. But if they were a talented show with good writers, we would care about Black Canary, Speedy, Felicity, all the same amount. Because usually you can watch a TV show with like more than one female character.
I was talking to someone recently about the fact that those flashbacks, one episode of all of this, maybe we have talked about these flashbacks that Arrow has been doing for the last 4 years. And I'm sure last year will be the quote unquote last one. And if they do it past that, then that's a really stupid decision. It cuts out like 10 minutes a week for what they could possibly be doing.
For no reason. They don't need to do the
no reason at all. There really isn't. The one for this season I never cared about outside of the Constantine episode.
Yeah. Same. It's the only one I can really say I paid attention to.
Mm-hmm.
But oh well.
Oh well.
Next week I'll have a lot to talk about Arrow.
They really wrote themselves into the corner with 5 years I was stranded on an island.
Well, no, I mean, again, if it was a better TV show, they could have just said that, and we know all we need to know about how he became Arrow. It's like we know enough about superheroes if we're watching it to know that guy has a traumatic experience, trains, becomes a hero. Like, that's it. Nutshell. But I don't know. I want to talk about Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Legends of Tomorrow was great.
Would you agree that's probably the best episode they've done so far?
Yeah. Except, that and Marooned are tied for me. I loved both.
Okay. Well, they kind of tied together in a way anyway.
Yeah, with McRory not being dead.
Shocker.
Definitely be Kronos. Well, no, we didn't. I mean, I said we didn't see the body, so I knew he couldn't necessarily be dead. I didn't expect him to be Kronos.
No, but
And
that was actually a really pleasant surprise. But the thing is, the second that we saw him and had Snart shackled up, I'm like, oh no, it's totally Rory.
Well, yeah, but at that point we can start to guess, and it's more fun. But like up to that point, we would have had no idea. But yeah, I thought it was a really good episode, Kendra aside. But like, even if her storyline makes sense.
We should just make her mention of the word barista drinking game.
Oh my god. No, it's just, I'm just so angry at how the show can make Hawkgirl the weakest link. When
well, to be fair,
arguably
in the first episode, Hawkman was the weakest link.
Okay, yeah, but that was 2 episodes. I'm talking about the overall series here, Evan.
Yes, I know.
Hawkgirl is easily, overall, the weakest character, the weakest actress, lamest storylines that all have to do with romance, despite the fact that she's like an ancient hawk goddess who wields a freaking, what's the thing that she does?
A mace?
Yeah, she wields a mace. Like, shouldn't she be cooler?
She should be cooler.
I'm just so frustrated by that.
She should be. Despite the fact that her plot line for the majority of this episode had to do with a relationship with Ray that exists for I don't know what reasons, I felt like the setup and her personal resolution for it was probably some of the most interesting stuff they've done with her. You know.
Oh yeah, it wasn't badly done. I just don't get why every storyline with her so far has had to do with a dude.
Yeah, you're right. Well,
but whatever. Everything else I liked a lot. Even if I thought it would have been cooler if Leonard Snart had just lost his hand.
I know. I was thinking that too. The second that Hunter was repairing it, I'm like, is this going to be one of those shows? It's going to throw us for a loop and then pull a Star Trek into darkness where they fix the problem like 2 minutes later.
Yep. Which, I mean, I get that, like, it would really, like, probably hinder the character if he only had one hand.
Oh, come on. If Phil fucking Coulson on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. can have a robot hand and get away with it, then Leonard Snart can definitely do the same.
But that's the same thing, and I don't want to compare this show to
badass and have the freaking ice gun built into his hand.
None of those, that all still comes back to the same thing of being like a really contrived way to make sure everything's fine. Robot hand, replica, built hand, whatever. It's still the same cheat.
Okay, yeah, that's true. But his escape using his own ice gun on his hand was rather thrilling. Watching it as it was happening.
I thought it was a great sequence, and like it was relatively surprising too that that's the way he took it. However, I do think the intent had been for him to like freeze the shackles and break them, not to freeze his hand. The way they were like shooting it and having him try to like pull his hand away from where the ice was gonna go.
Yeah, or just snap the handcuffs and just take them off later. But hey, whatever works. He has it's an ice.
No, that's
spreader.
what I said.
Oh yeah,
he was trying to get the shackle to be able to break it.
Right. But his ice gun has too much of a spreader shotgun kind of firing range. It's not like a very specific pinpoint. It's like taking an air conditioner and pointing it at somebody until they're too cold.
I know. Poor Leonard.
Oh, well. Yeah, he's still the most enjoyably hammy of all of these shows together. So.
Well, he does hammy in a good way, though. Like, he knows how to play it. He doesn't... Like, I feel like he never feels like he's hammy in a bad way. It's never like it's bad acting. He just nails like the tone of the character really, really well. But no, I loved most of the episode because I think that the idea that they couldn't go back to the 2 years after everybody had been rounded up to fix things, I thought that was nice. I like real repercussion, consequences, whatever. I liked all the individual storylines. I'm curious to see what they're going to do with Mick now that he's back on board.
They're probably just going to keep him prisoner, interrogate him, and then some other fate will happen. I mean, the season only has 13 episodes, so. Yeah,
but they're trying to make him. They're trying to get him back to the side of the good. He said at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Like the whole idea is to like reform him, and this was the only episode in the whole DC TV universe where Ra's al Ghul has seemed interesting to me.
I was gonna say, what did you think of that? We saw Talia al Ghul for the first time in all of these series.
I thought that was a cool little way to nod to the character since she's never probably gonna like show up elsewhere. But I thought it was just a good way to use the character because it was in the format of a show that knows it's a little sillier.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think it belongs. And also Sarah being a badass and pirouetting, kicking people.
She's very good at those.
Yeah, she's great. She's a great stunts person.
Yeah. No, I think it's cool that this series in general can take liberties with these locales and characters and kind of throw them all together. And like this episode, I was saying at the top of my review, like on a surface level, just looking at it by setting and what's going on within it, looks like it could be tonally messy, but everything that was going on actually made it work. All the characters' relationships with one another actually had it come out in a way that was a very enjoyable, watchable through line. Your camera, yeah, there you go. It was muted for a second. That's okay.
I did it purposely because I thought I was going to sneeze.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I do agree. I think overall everything really worked together in a way that like the tone was really solidified. The way that they are able to hop into different universes played really well and it was really charming overall. Yeah, I just really liked the episode a lot.
Nice. Oh yeah, and then they're gonna go into the future next week, so then there you go. That should be interesting.
Yeah, because I feel like it's gonna be the highest staked episode they've had so far, and we've done so much of going into the past except for the one stop in Star City that I'm more curious, I guess, to see how they do with future settings than they've done with past settings. I feel like there's more to draw on in past settings, obviously.
Easily.
Reference. And, they have the obvious gimmicks of, like, costumes and music. With future, they have to be a little bit more inventive. So I'm curious.
It's a really cool idea just dawned on me once they get further along into Legends of Tomorrow and having all these crossover stuff happen. What if they did a Batman Beyond episode for Legends of Tomorrow?
But, like, for the characters, they already did that with, like, Arrow.
But it's Batman Beyond. It would be different.
But they can't have Batman.
It'd be a hyper future.
Do you mean just the style or, like...
No, I mean, like, actual sci-fi future Batman.
They can't do Batman.
Why not?
They don't have the rights to use Batman in the shows. It's the whole thing. It's like why they couldn't have I think they wanted another character from the DC universe, but because the movies were going to use them, they can't.
So they could use the League of Assassins, Ra's al Ghul and Talia al Ghul.
Yeah, because they're not Batman.
So they can't have Terry McGinnis.
I don't know what you're meaning.
He's the future Batman. Never mind.
I
liked that show.
Eric from Boy Meets World. I did too, but they're not going to use Batman. That's my only point here. They're not going to use that character in any of the TV shows except for Gotham, and even then they have to use baby Batman. So like,
we still haven't watched any of Gotham season 2, have we?
I didn't finish Gotham season 1 because it's garbage.
I didn't either. And when I thought of starting to pick it back up again, everyone told me, "Oh yeah, they killed off Fish Mooney and then they brought her back." And I'm like, "Nope, no thanks."
Yeah, and she was the only interesting part to the show because at least she seemed like she was having fun and understood that the show was supposed to be silly, not super serious like Ryan Atwood does. But yeah, no.
I felt the opposite, but that's okay. So I think that would amount to it, unless there's any remotely interesting DC news happening this past week.
Only interesting DC news just came out yesterday, and there was like a small snippet of The Killing Joke where the creators said that they're going to give more of a background story to Barbara Gordon before everything happens, so it's not just like she's killed for man-pain.
Right.
And they said that like they're going to show that not only was she somebody's daughter, but she meant a lot to the Gotham City as a whole and to Batman, and they're not going to like just be exploitive about it. Hopefully. But that was it, and I'm still tentative about that because it's still using the same animation they've been using since like Flashpoint.
Yeah, I did. I tried throwing on Flashpoint one time, and I turned it off after 10 minutes because I hated the way it looked.
One of the newer animated movies that they've been doing, and I've seen most of them. That one's the only one that I thought was like really overall was pretty good. I'm not a fan of the animation still. And they're using that for the Killing Joke, but they're also bringing back Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of Justice League Doom. I liked Justice League War. The animation for those was a little bit different.
Well, Doom might have actually been like the first one to start using the glossier look to it, but then I feel like it's gotten flatter and flatter with each go.
And that's how I felt looking at Flashpoint. But maybe I should just watch it for the story.
Yeah, finish Flashpoint. I think it's an interesting one. And season 1 of The Flash, very, very much so, got a lot from that comic. So.
Fascinating. All right, so that would be it for our 4-episode coverage of the weekly DC live action multiverse episodes. My name is Evan Griffin. As always, I'm your co-host, and my other co-host is Allison Johnson. You can follow us on Twitter. Hit us up on the Young Folks website on Facebook, and also on Twitter with the handle TYF Official. And let us know what your favorite moments were for the week, who you think is going to be in the grave, if you even care about Laurel as a character, all that good stuff.
Better.
I mean, I still do. After this week of Arrow, you should just watch it, just because it'll remind you how much you actually liked her at one point.
I always like her, but I'm in the minority. But yes, so check us out next week when I will have a good, hard rant likely in my arsenal.
We look forward to it.